It seems to be that students and teachers have very different ideas about grades. Generally, teachers seem to think the minimum amount of work deserves an average grade, while students think they're entitled to higher grades for doing the required work. We talked to both professors and students at the University of Hartford to see what they think. Here's what Professor Harvey Jassim from the University of Hartford had to say. So now I'm with Professor Jassim, and my first question is, if a student completed the minimum amount of work, would you give them an A?
No.
And can you give an explanation of why not?
Well, an A is reserved for the very best performance. So if the student simply completes the minimum amount of work, that's not the very best. That's the bottom of the passing scale.
Okay. And do you think a student should deserve an A for the minimum amount of work?
No.
No. Okay. And students seem to think that they deserve good grades for just doing the minimum required work. What do you think the sense of entitlement stems from?
I don't see that. So,
You don't. So you don't see that students, if they just come to class and they do the minimum amount of work, students will never argue that they deserve a higher grade. Maybe not an A, but
no, I've been here for a long time, and I've never had a student argue with me that they deserved a higher grade. That's probably because I explain things on the syllabus in terms of what percent of the grade comes from various other grades in the course, so that students ought to have a pretty good idea of what their grades are as they're going along. Students will sometimes argue about a particular assignment, or they'll ask for an extension on an assignment or something like that, but in all my years here, students haven't argued about that. I've had a couple of cases where a student was failing, where I don't think I would call that arguing, but they sort of begged for other options or for a break or something like that. But it wasn't about, I attended class, I handed everything in, I need an A.
okay. And do you think it has anything to do with how this generation was brought up? Maybe not in your classes in particular, if you've ever heard of other teachers talking about how students claim that they deserve a grade that the teacher just didn't see?
I don't hear a lot of that. I think there is grade inflation, and I'm not sure where that comes from. I know in places like Harvard, once you get in, and it's tough to get in, but apparently once you get in, you can be pretty sure of getting A's and B's, and that's about it. And stories like that do increase the pressure on faculty to give higher grades. But I don't think most faculty have that problem. I've heard stories about students expecting things and about students' parents getting involved and thinking that in this competitive world we need to give them a good grade. After all, they paid a lot of money for their tuition. But those are just sort of random stories that I hear.
Okay.
I don't see a lot of evidence to support that there's any widespread problem.
Okay. And lastly, do you believe that the level of effort and the quality of work are the same thing?
No.
No. And in other words, should someone who tried their hardest to get the same grade as somebody with better work, though it came easier to them?
No.
Okay.
And I mean, that's a hard answer sometimes. I say it quickly. I appreciate hard work, and the realities in life are some people are better at some things than others. One of the stories you often hear is, do you want to be operated on by a doctor who tries really hard but doesn't know what the heck they're doing, but they're really trying their hardest? Or would you rather be operated on by a doctor who really knows their stuff, it came easy to them, they didn't work all that hard, but they really know how to do it? Or do you want to fly in an airplane piloted by somebody who just happens to be good at it, versus fly in an airplane piloted by somebody who's working really hard but is totally confused? I'd rather fly in the plane with the airline pilot who knows what they're doing. Likewise, my job is to try to encourage people to do their best, but also to identify and reward good work. I want to reward effort, but ultimately it's about how good is the product at the end of the day.
Okay, thank you very much for your
Welcome.
time. I appreciate it. After speaking with professors, it is clear that students have a very different view. We talked to Jackie Weiner, Jr. at the University of Hartford, and Rachel Rivera, a sophomore at the University of Hartford, who both did not seem to agree. Would you be disappointed if you received a C in a class you completed all the work for?
I definitely would be disappointed just because I feel like my work wouldn't match up in accordance to my grade, and I feel like I wouldn't be compensated enough for all that I did in the class.
Okay, and do you think you or a student should deserve an A for the minimum amount of work?
No, I don't feel like that's a good grade for the minimum amount, because I feel like you should deserve an A if you do the maximum amount, including maybe even like extra credits and going beyond the task in the class.
Okay. Students seem to think that they deserve good grades for just doing the minimum required work. What do you think this sense of entitlement stems from?
I think it stems from maybe like our naive senses as kids. We feel like we have to do the minimum amount and we'll just get rewarded for it. But I think that as you get older, you come to realize that you have to work hard to, get your reward that you're supposed to get. And I feel like it's more a maturity level to understand that concept.
And do you think it has anything to do with how this generation was brought up?
I definitely do, because I feel like in the U.S. we like things that are fast and easy, and we feel like we should get the rewards as soon as possible, and I feel like that definitely has a major effect, because we're always looking for the best that we can get in the easiest and fastest way possible.
And do you believe that the level of effort and the quality of work are the same thing?
I believe that they are the same thing. If you're going to put, a lot of effort into what you're doing, then the quality is obviously going to match up to what you're doing, because it actually shows that you care, and your work and the quality of the work will show that with the amount of effort you put in.
And in other words, should someone who tries the hardest get the same grade as somebody with better work, though it may come easier to them?
I mean, I can't really say like an answer to that question. I feel like it depends on the type of person who you are. If you try your hardest and you show like to your teacher that you care, if you don't do well on a test, you can't obviously get a good grade for that, but you can be compensated by the teacher if you personally talk to them and show that you care. You can maybe do extra credit to get your grade up, but if you don't try to do that, then no, you can't get the same grade as someone who gets good grades without trying as hard.
Okay, thank you very much, Jackie.
You're welcome.
Would you be disappointed if you received a C in a class where you completed all the work for?
No, I would not, because just because you complete all the work doesn't mean that you put in all your effort and as much time as you could to receive a better grade.
So you would be disappointed or you would not be?
I would not.
Okay. And do you think a student should deserve an A for the minimum amount of work?
No, I do not. I think it depends. If a person can complete everything that they have to in a minimum amount, then that's fine. But if a person goes above and beyond to really complete something, then I think they deserve a better grade.
Okay. Students seem to think that they deserve good grades for just doing the minimum required work. What do you think this sense of entitlement stems from?
I think that they think just because they got it done, that means that they deserve to get a good grade.
And do you think it has anything to do with how this generation was brought up?
I think the generation was brought up as kind of like slackers, and they don't want to do as much as they can to their full potential.
And do you believe that the level of effort and the quality of work are the same thing?
No.
In other words, Should someone who tries their hardest get the same grade as somebody with better work, though it may come easier to them?
Sometimes it's like unfortunate that some person who tries their hardest will only get a B and someone who didn't try at all will get a B, but I think the person that put in more effort should get a better grade, but it's not always that way.
All right, thank you very much, Rachel.